Welcome to From the Fishbowl, a podcast brought to you from the land of the Dharawal peoples, a place where you, the listener, gets unprecedented access to the tales shared by Judy Hannon MP, the independent member for Wollondilly, her staff, locals and experts in their field. My name is Benn. I'm the Chief Advisor for Judy, and in our second episode I'd like to introduce a whole room full of people. First up we have Judy, the member for Wollondilly. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And we have Louise Edgecombe, Judy's Chief of Staff.
Hello, good morning everybody.
We have Noel, Judy's Electorate Officer.
Morning.
And Erin Foley, Judy's Research Assistant.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so plan is, this is our second episode and it's been 6 months since our last. We've had a whole bunch of things happen in Parliament and lots of different things. So we're going to talk about our favourite memories of the year, our biggest disappointments of the year, and what opportunities we're looking forward to next year. But before we actually do all that, we're going to get to know each other a little bit and introduce ourselves to the listener who are the people of Wollondilly and give them a little insight as to how the office works and what we all do. So we're going to talk about our previous jobs, what we do for Judy now, and some of our hobbies and a little bit about ourselves. So kicking that off, Louise, what do you want to talk about first? Your previous job, what you do for Judy now, or your secret superpower?
Yeah, good morning. My role as of Chief of Staff for Judy Hannon is, it's a really demanding role, but I really enjoy it. Part of my role is to keep the office running smoothly and governance of the finance. I spend a lot of time, Judy and I spend a lot of time out going to every single corner of the Wollondilly electorate as much as we can, getting across, spending time with constituents. Judy always gets such a warm, inviting welcome wherever she goes, and it's really lovely to spend time with people.
You also do the marketing as well.
Yes, of course.
Side, that's a huge part of the role.
I guess working closely with the Chief Advisor, Benn, and all the staff in the office, part of my role is to communicate those important messages out. So that's in the way of newsletters, social media, and
Christmas cards.
Christmas cards. Yeah. So there's always so much to get out, but we try our best.
Yeah. And it's complex, hey, like communicating that in a way that the electorate can actually understand the deep parts of legislation. Because from my side, I'm reading, 40, 50-page documents. I find it interesting. No one else does. So they want to know how that affects their life and what that actually means for Wollondilly. So that's part of what your role is in sharing, and I think that's right. Really awesome.
Yeah. Louise, where did I swipe you from? Where were you before?
Right, so I was a creative director and operations manager for it's actually a sustainable packaging company, moving micro businesses over to sustainable practices and packaging and e-commerce. So whilst I don't have a local government or state government background, I'm really thrilled to to move into the space, and I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, it's been an amazing year. Louise is beside me every step of the way. We've had lots of ups and downs. What sort of things have been, what's some favourite memories of the year? There's lots of them, but what's one or two that stick out to you?
Oh gosh, there's been literally thousands of transactions and interactions out and about visiting this electorate, and it's really difficult to narrow it down. So I'm going to go back to the very beginning, and that was Judy's inaugural speech day. And just to be in the room, it was solid gold. It's still a very vivid and strong memory, to be in the room with all those supporters. And I want to mention a lot of people, but, Sam Davis, Jan and Royce Wilson, Bronwyn Tregenza, Brett Cotty, Bev Sparepoint, Edna Carmichael, they were just all there together supporting Judy. And knowing that a lot of people were out there watching from home as well, it was just such an amazing thing to witness.
It was lovely being on this end too.
After so much work as well, seeing that fruition of you trying again and again and again and being able to share that with you, and that elation that so many people felt for so many different reasons, whether it be, not getting along with the previous member, feeling like there was some policy stuff not done, or just sheer having that independent.
It was actually the inaugural speech for all of them. It didn't belong to me, it belonged to the community.
And it felt like that, it really did. Yeah.
We had some toughies too. Some we've laughed about, some we've cried about. Is there any one in particular that stands out?
What, my biggest disappointment of the
Yeah.
year, working and observing things from this office. I guess you mentioned it a minute ago, Ben. Just, the actions and the approach from the previous member with his negative commentary. It's, it shows an immense lack of respect, and that was probably the most disappointing thing for me.
So I guess you all wear that because I simply don't look at it. I just keep battling ahead and I don't look there. It'll go there. But you all have to deal with that as office staff, unfortunately. Yeah. What about next year? What's 2024 going to do?
Well, for me, I guess it'll be seeing you walk out of the room when you've had a meeting with Daniel Mookie and New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, discussing an important topic called the Picton Bypass. That much needed road connecting people in Wollondilly. That will be to see that happen next year for me will be amazing.
Well, I don't know how this office would survive without you, Louise, but I know I wouldn't survive without you. So really looking forward to 2024. We drive each other for kilometres and kilometres, and Louise keeps me on track. But thank you for all you do. And of course, it's over now too.
Wait. Sorry, not just to interject. Sorry, just to advise you not to disagree with you, of course. Your secret superpower, your hobby. So the most important stuff.
Separate superpower.
Secret superpower. But no, what do you do on the weekend? So for a listener that knows that you are doing that marketing stuff, what do you do to unwind?
What fills my cup up in the weekends is probably gardening. I get out and about, that solitary time out gardening. I really enjoy that. I love to cook as well. I made a salad for our Christmas party on Sunday, and Judy's son Morgan was.
It was amazing.
It was really good.
So I'm a bit of a salad queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, your partner, said that all your family rave about your salads
They do.
too.
But Judy, no, it's been an absolute delight, and I say to many people out there in the community, it is a huge privilege to be in this role. So thank you.
We've been lots of places. We all think we've seen everything, but I'm sure we'll find some other things to see going forward. And Lou has many superpowers. Gardening and cooking is not just some of them.
And look, as your co-worker, I work with you all the time. You make the office really enjoyable to work around, and I think that's a comment that a lot of the staff talk about a lot is hearing us not only listening to our drum and bass music in the office here, but our laughter and
it is a very demanding workplace in terms of the electorate office, advocating for our constituents. However, we do have a lot of fun. We really do, and I think that exudes the place in terms of what people see and enjoy.
All right. So next after Lou, it's myself. So you all know I'm the chief advisor. So my previous role, I worked at Game Centre. I called myself a managing director or whatever it was, but I was the owner of game stores. Used to be on council as well. What I do for Judy now, it's hard to explain what a political advisor actually does, but I talk to other people like me who work for political parties to tell them what the electorate and Judy wants out of the legislation that they're introducing in Parliament. What that means is I have to read every bit of legislation, whether it's going to be successful or not successful through Parliament. Sometimes the not successful ones are actually more enjoyable to read than the successful ones because they're kind of funny. But yeah, it's really awesome, and I get to write speeches as well, and I give Judy advice on complex matters.
Let's say Ben's very politically minded, and he writes some amazing speeches, and Louise and I have to tamper them down just a little bit because he'd get up there and really lay it on the line. We just go about it in a slightly softer way.
Yeah, you do. But you still do have the scorpion tail, which I like how you've added to the end of your speeches, which are really awesome. Sometimes we outdo or pace each other well, I think, which is really cool. So that's what I do. What the last year has been like, it's been really amazing to see the office grow and change. Which is wonderful to see. But I think my favourite memory out of everything was that engagement in Parliament where, you know, Labor had laid down to us that, you know, the sick contribution scheme was not going to be amended. And then, Judy, you looked at me and you said, well, that's done and dusted then, I guess. What do you want to do? And I said, I think that we can give it another go. We couldn't go for them. And, you know, with how you very trustingly said, go for it then, and you speak to them. And that trust in how I then had to respectfully tell the government of the day that they had lost their majority possibly with a bill was amazing, like phenomenal. And the trust in doing that and the respect from both sides in what we wanted out of that, and now the outcome that has come, it's a really hard thing to explain to the electorate how that's going to change, but it changes almost $1 billion each year, forever, not Wollondilly, in New South Wales. I wish it was $1 billion in Wollondilly. That'd be nice. But yeah,
but it was great to actually divert that money straight back to our area.
Yeah.
No matter how much, big or small, we deserve what happens in our area.
Yeah. And making them accountable for it as well, which is really a key to how I've grown to know you after all these years. You know, and you make no secret about it. In the beginning, we didn't really get along. We were, you know, opponents, and we really pushed each other that way. But the community-mindedness and how you think that integrity should be there for all levels of government is awesome, and it's amazing to see that, how you're consistent across the board with it. And that, I think, leads to my biggest disappointment in some of your colleagues, and it's the minority parties in this regard. The opposition and the government, you know, to their credit, they're quite upfront with things. If they want to do us in, they say, yep, sorry, you're not going to win this one. We don't agree with you, and you can work with that. Some of the minority parties, unfortunately, and it's not your colleagues in the Assembly, but in the upper house particularly, they push their own barrow, and some of them then will make promises which they can't fulfil, or they back out on. And I don't want to name them or anything like that, but it's really hard to work with a colleague that does that. And like, we are colleagues in that regard. Like, I work with them, and to have them just say to you to your face and then me one thing, and then I know 5 minutes later they said something else to another colleague of mine, it's really sad.
It's a sad part of politicking, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's no point. There's no votes there to win. There was no policy win. There was no politic win. But it was just a snipey thing to do for no reason. Yeah. What I'm looking forward to next year, and it's another really nerdy thing. Basics is house requirements for building. We're doing some amendments, or potential amendments, and looking at legislation there, Erin and myself, and the potential of giving existing owners of their homes, whether it be renters or homeowners, the potential to retrofit or fix their homes for environmental benefits, but also for their lifestyle benefits, and having it tax deductible could be amazing. So the potentials of doing that is phenomenal. If the government listens.
Yep.
It also sounds like my name, Basics and Benasics. So
Basic Benasic.
Yeah.
I thought you made a
basic Benasic. Make it basic. Just Benasic.
I love it.
On to other non-basic things. Noel. I've known Noel for a long time. How are you?
I'm all right.
That's good.
Now, I've sort of got a checkered background coming into this job here. Today I'm paid to listen more than anything as an electorate officer. I find that if you're listening to people and you listen properly, the solution is there. And it's amazing what the community knows, and it's amazing what you can learn off them before you make that next step, triaging the job and trying to work out what you've got to do. But previous to this, I was never paid to listen. I was a decision maker always. I just counted up. I spent 38 years as a boss of somebody or other. And maybe I listened then too, but I didn't think so. I was just making decisions and telling people what to do half the time. But so somehow or other I've realised that listening is more important than talking in the last 9 months that we've been here. So
I've only known you like this year, really, Noel. But from what I observed, you're an incredible listener. Yeah, just I have huge respect for you.
Well, people have got interesting stories, and once you there's the problem. Okay, well, let's listen to that first. But that's an introduction to the person, and then you can get to know the person, which is what I really love about the job, because you do get to know people. And as I said, those stories are really wonderful. So it's a love of humankind, I suppose. We're all children of the universe, regardless of what nationality we are, etc. And Australia is that multicultural society. I prefer to think of it that we are not really of a culture as such. We're very much Australians, but that is the acceptance and the tolerance that we have. And I think, one of the lessons that I'm starting to sort of feel as if is brewing in Australia is the fact that we've got to deal with social media, which is that angry sort of self. It's that id within us that we have to control. And we've got to work out how to control that social media side of us. That's how to use that tool. That new tool can be good, but at the moment I think it's doing more harm than good. And at the same time, mature into that role, work it properly, and learn a lot more about people through social media in a positive light. But I don't know how we're going to do that. At the moment,
Noel, I believe you've actually found your absolute superpower in listening to people, because when I'm out, and only yesterday I was sitting next to somebody in a meeting and they leant across to me and said, "That fellow on the front desk, he fixed up and it was XYZ for my family," and it made a huge difference. And I don't know that they got the total solution, but the fact that you listened and did what you could for them, I think listening and making cups of tea as well is your superpower.
I don't know if that's my superpower. I think my superpower is the smell of snow.
Oh.
Yeah, that really gets me going. I had a lot of muscle waste. I'm getting a little bit older these days. 38 years telling people what to do. I am definitely getting older. And when I had a bit of a weakening in my legs and muscle waste in my legs some years ago, there was one stage there I thought, I might not be walking around too long because I was tripping over just doing nothing. And when I took my nephew down to the snow a couple of years back, all of a sudden with the smell of snow in the air, my legs came good. I was starting to sprint. and I don't know whether it's psychosomatic or what, but yeah.
I think we'll get you a shave ice machine for Christmas.
Yeah, but snow definitely gets me going anyway. Yeah.
That's funny. So what was your previous job?
Well, for many years, for 25, 26, going 27 years now, myself and my wife have been working on the District Reporter newspaper, and that's been a real insight to the world. It exposed me to a lot of the leaders, including prime ministers, and gave me access to special moments. But so running a little newspaper with my wife has been the...
And that's been centred around Camden, Wollondilly, basically.
Yeah, it has. It has, but that said, I've been to Canberra on several occasions interviewing prime ministers and what have you. So, it's interesting when you... I'm not a journalist. I'm just the salesperson of the advertising team, really, but being an intimate little newspaper, it's quite a key to the community, because people do want to talk to their newspaper, and we feed off one another a lot. So it was a great role. I love that job, and my wife continues on with that newspaper today while I'm stepping aside from it and doing something that's probably a little bit more hands-on with the community. We're problem solving.
So you must have had some funny things. So you must have some favourite things, seeing as you dealt with the community face to face at the front desk. What's your favourite?
Oh, I don't know if they're always funny, but favourite moments. There's quite a few. Look, the favourite moments don't come from the front desk. They come from the responses of ministers who say yes, and we resolve the issue for the person. And only yesterday, Sandra, Erin, a couple of others were working on a project for ladies to get her identification system up. She didn't have 100 points and was had all sorts of difficulties, and Sandra dived into it and started doing some research, and we brought the couple in that needed a bit of assistance that way, and by the end of the day, we'd had the response that she had her ID. And you know, that was something that she'd been struggling with for years, not a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So
talk through that process. So most people don't understand their Prime Minister from their mayor. That's, you know, we know that.
Well, I
as well.
struggle.
So, yeah. I think he does too. So
One wears the hat.
I think it was building a really good rapport with Service New South Wales, and we've got a really good contact. Her name is Julie, and she's part of the business team in Service New South Wales. So Sandra and Julie worked really close together to get this done.
Yeah.
So you have the call from the person who's spoken to Sandra, and then Sandra then has spoken with Noel, and then there's been a meeting with yourself and Lou or myself or Judy, and then there's this back and forth interaction that happens, and we then connect to that expert, as you say, Lou. So part of your role as well is keeping connections with those people from those service agencies.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I've got, you know, some connections with the ministerial offices as well, so you get the political side. So depending which way it goes, then we feed back to the electorate officer. A letter sometimes gets written or a representation. So in this case, there was a couple of calls made, and the whole process probably took about 3-4 hours of staff time, but it saved that person the alternative of what? They were going to send a letter to the minister, hope for the best, and maybe a month later.
They've been going for years.
Yeah.
Trying to get an ID. Something simple, simple. Well, not simple, but frustrating for them.
Yeah, and all it was just all of our brains going, oh, you know, what about this? What about this? And, you know, these out-of-the-box ideas, even the, you know, the prospect of changing a name, Erin, I think that you suggested that, you know, there's all of these different things that we could have done to fix it. And in the end, fixing it that way, there's this power, I think, in having us all in the room that way.
Yeah, look, consultation is the word, and it's something that's very lacking in politics today, and it seems as if people's idea of what consultation is these days is I'll tell you what's good for you. That's my consultation of the day.
Yes.
Whereas, of course, no, it is the listening, it is the banter between us all, that and engagement with one another, because everyone's got their own experiences, perspectives, and those fresh set of eyes on the same problem really helps a lot.
Your last thing, Noel, what are you looking forward to next year? And now Snow Trip is this year, so you can't say
No,
that.
it's not.
Well,
It crosses over, doesn't it?
Just everybody's,
This is
everybody's info. Noel is off to ski in Japan in a couple of weeks.
Which is why he snuck in
We'll miss
snow
him
in
terribly.
every answer.
absolutely. When say, you know, like, you know, we work to live, don't we? And although I must admit, this is an unusual job. This is rewarding in itself. So I can't say that we're working to live. If you enjoy doing what you're doing, then you're not working. But yeah, I do love the snow. It's an old passion of mine from the early 80s. And yeah, I don't like not skiing. I think time not spent skiing is time wasted. So yeah, so January's a write-off, everyone. If you've got any problems, the world's not moving for a while.
I haven't had time to knit you a beanie, so you know, keep that dear head of yours warm.
And no broken legs or arms.
no
we
limb.
need you back. We can survive for a little bit, but not going.
We can deal with broken legs, broken fingers. No, it's harder to type. So
Or make
just
a
wash
cup
your
of tea.
hands.
Look, I do pride myself in the fact that I've not broken one bone in my body, and I've cycled for many years and skied and roller skated and all the silly things that kids do, and somehow or other haven't broken anything yet. So, like, there's always January, you know, we could always work something out then and do something silly, but yeah, I've got a habit of not breaking things. So I should come back to work on February, fresh and bright and bushy-tailed.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Next up, Erin.
Hi. So it's my role here. I'm an electorate officer and research assistant. So a lot of the work that I do is similar to Noel in listening to people who come into the office, sort of triaging those initial inquiries and complaints and issues that people raise, as well as working on research with Benn a lot of the time. Yeah.
So we're back and forth all the time and write speeches or write complex reps. We were the ones that wrote the planning representation of 17 pages, I think,
Yeah.
in an hour and a half in a coffee shop in Barrel, just because we had to do it, and it just has to get done. So it's just really enjoyable, actually, working with someone and writing with someone like that. It's awesome. So what was your previous role?
So similar to Louise, I have a creative background in interior design and architecture, as well as lecturing in design as well. So had the last few years just part-time as I've taken time off to have kids. So this is really sort of diving back into work now, which is really exciting to take a different direction.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and the academic work, I think, shines out through that speech writing. And it doesn't really matter, I think, what degree that you've had, just being able to professionally write in that way and be able to succinctly say things helps a lot. And it almost is, you are the professional voice on paper sometimes for the person who comes in with those issues and, talking that language to the department so they know what's going on.
And sometimes council, actually, I know that in the last couple of weeks, you guys wrote a representation to stop a heritage listing on somebody's property, and that happened at council. So I don't even know that person knows that they've won, but you guys wrote the representation for them.
Yeah, so I think sometimes people just need a voice and need things said in a particular way and spelled out in a particular way that communicates sort of their message. I think a lot of the time people can be quite reasonable in listening when somebody has a complaint or an issue that they want resolved. So I guess that's where we come in to try and sort of bridge the gap between what people want and sort of making that happen, whether it's through council or writing to a minister with a rep.
Yeah. So how do you unwind from all of that craziness?
I would say coming to work is unwinding, because when I go home, I've got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old boy at home. So, coming to work is my unwinding time. As any parent would know that, getting time out from the kids sometimes is a good thing. Yeah,
it's hard. And having 2 kids at the same age, I feel for you often, and I know we talk often about that.
It's a real balancing act sometimes. Working and kids, but that's reality for most people, and for a lot of people in the electorate as well. Like balancing work and life, and all the challenges that have come, especially in the last couple of years with the cosy lives, with the cost of living. We're all kind of experiencing that, and I guess that's a lot of the reps and a lot of the inquiries that we get is from people who are having difficulties or struggling in those areas, just saying, what help can we get, what can be done.
And being that voice for people is really important. So from all the memories that we've shared, I guess, over the last 6 months, what's your favourite?
I guess you sort of touched on it earlier with the representation that we sent to the Minister for Planning, the 17-page document that outlined the planning and infrastructure needs for Wilton and Appin in our area. So that was a really great one to work on, and I really loved seeing Judy sort of speak about it at Parliament and present it to the Minister, and then to go on and meet with all the ministers to really highlight the needs of this area. And it's something that I think if Judy hadn't done that, then it would have just sort of slipped under the radar. So sort of as an overview, that issue there was that there's a lot of planning approvals that had happened under the previous government that didn't really fully meet the needs of moving, 40,000 new homes into this area. So the infrastructure needs, which comes down to things like roads and schools and healthcare, and making these new housing developments places that people want to live and places that people want to visit on the weekends, places that have a sense of place and give somebody a sense of dignity with the area that they're living in and that they're building their home and creating a new life. And I think what we've sort of been working on, what Judy's been working on in the office here, is really highlighting the fact that these areas need that. You can't just dump a whole bunch of houses in what used to be, farmland and hope that people sort it out themselves. They need roads, they need sewage, they need water. So that was probably one of my favourite memories, was just working on that. And then on a more local scale, working on a project for a gentleman who came into the office with a bit of an idea that he sort of wanted to present to us to see if we could make it happen. And his family had lived in the Thelmere area for generations, and he was born. He now lives in a house 2 doors down from the house that he was born in, and there's a laneway that's a paper road, which is a laneway on, paper, but it's not really a road. It's sort of just a thoroughfare, a pedestrian thoroughfare. And he came in and said, oh, look, do you think that we could possibly get it named after my family who's lived in the area for so long? And we kind of went, oh, okay, yeah, let's look into it. And so with the help of Benn in the office here and other people, we presented it to council, who initially said, no, not really, we're not going to do that. But I guess this is...
Go get signatures on a petition. So we asked Judy and she said, okay, go get signatures on a petition. So we did that.
Yeah.
So you and I went door knocking for a day.
Yeah, and it was...
And Mr. Channel did as well. He did his side of the streets and we got all those signatures. And then you did another rep.
Yep, so we did another rep to council and said, look, we've done everything you've asked for. The community in the local area obviously is quite happy to name it after this family. Can we go ahead and do it? And I think the response has been yes. So, yeah, just as a small win, just a really nice one. That's been a really good memory this year.
And for those that don't know, it's the Channel family. So this is Alfie Channel's family, and they've lived in Thelmere since 1886, moved into the area and aren't actually recognised really for anything. Alfie Channel built the modern hall that's at the middle of the Thelmere Oval, which is really the change rooms for the Thelmere Roosters, and he built it for boxing training and gave it to the Roosters in a roundabout way. So there's a long history there and there's different buildings and everything, but that's basically it. The Channel family have never had anything named after them, and John Channel moved his entire life, so he's lived there now for, I don't know, it was 1956 or something. I don't know the dates right, but he's moved 2 doors in his whole life, which is not a bad effort. He was born 2 doors down in the house, and it says that on his birth certificate. And I questioned it, and I said, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "No, actually, mother didn't make it to the doctors or anything. I was actually born in the house 2 doors down, and now he's moved 2 doors up, and he's loved Thelmere his whole life." And thanks to Erin, that family's recognised, which is awesome.
They have a great connection to the local area, so that was a really nice one to work on.
Cool. Biggest disappointment?
That would probably be sometimes the slow responses that we get on issues where we send representations to council, sometimes ministers, but usually councils on behalf of constituents, issues that should be, issues that kind of should be quite straightforward to resolve. So either the slow response or the response when we get where they just say, no. So often this has to do with DAs and planning and things like that. That's probably the biggest disappointment, is just when people don't seem to give us a reasonable response on what we feel is a reasonable request on behalf of somebody. Yeah.
When you have ministers, and there's been a number of ministers that have joked to you, Judy, and said, glacially slow is the way that they'd explain their departments.
Yeah, probably slower than that.
Yeah. Seen fish evolve faster, I think. It's very...
Patience is a virtue in politics.
Yes. So what are you looking forward to next year?
I'm looking forward to working on a couple of the campaigns that we are proposing to do. So like Ben mentioned before, the basics, so that I really am interested in that one because of how it touches on the environmental aspect as well as the planning aspect, the way that it's going to impact people's homes and the way they live their lives, but also in a way that promotes sustainability and, those kind of reduction in greenhouse gases and fossil fuel usage through, the homes, and a couple of other campaigns that we're working on to do with the environment. So, looking forward to those two.
Awesome.
Really, really good. And I know you're going to interview a couple of other people because we sort of alternate, have different people in during the days, and I know you'll catch up with some of those as well.
Which is good. This is actually, I think, will spark the change of a little bit of format of what we had planned for it, and we'll break it back. So I need to talk to you. But we've got interest from people that want to talk about, expansion of the Oaks Airport, for example, and different potential developments around that would like to come in and just say what their views are. And I think that would be interesting to hear from community at the same time.
It is, and we also, as we all know, have over 100 people that come in and give us advice in a formal sort of situation, help with policy and those things. We'll open these podcasts up because I think they actually inform people a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really great.
So I guess to wrap things up, unless there's anything else anyone wants to talk about.
I would just, to wrap it up, before we wrap it up, I think what's really important for people to know that everybody in this office works for one goal, and that's to make our community better and make it easier for everybody that lives here. Everybody has their own little slot in the office, in that they know who to talk to depending on what the issue is. Lou keeps us all in order. She keeps me in order. And I would just like to say thank you to the staff. There's so many times that I'm out there that people are saying, your office, you do great stuff. And they tell me things that I don't even know have happened because the office staff have actually dealt with it. So I think that's the amazing thing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Judy. Thank you. And then thanks to you. Just to report to the community, in 6 months, you've made 400 different representations to ministers, and that's 300 formal letters. We lost count with 100 other interactions with meetings, emails. Lou and I spoke about this, and then we just stopped counting. So we're going to say 400 different representations to ministers, councils, etc.
And that worked because we actually have had 4 ministers out in the last couple of weeks actually into the electorate.
Yeah.
Education, health, roads and police. So, yeah.
Just great. We've responded to thousands of emails. Again, we've lost count for those. 98 speeches in Parliament, and I did a comparison, so that's going to be on track to be the highest of any member of Wollondilly in a single term. Jai was the largest in his first term, second term not as much, but yeah, definitely getting out there and speaking at every time an opportunity you can, which is great because the people of Wollondilly deserve it.
So we're going to be back in Parliament 6th of February 2024. The second to last speech Judy delivered was, 3:55 a.m? I think it was. And then you're up for a breakfast in Camden at 7 a.m. So,
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't ask me what my favourite memory is.
Oh,
Disappointment. I just thought about that. So let me start with my biggest disappointment, because then I can finish it on and up. My biggest disappointment was when there were bills that related to things like domestic violence and really sensitive issues, and the government and the opposition would both stand up and speak, and all they would do was say what they did and what the other side didn't do. They wouldn't talk about what we're actually going to do to solve the issue. And it was very frustrating, and I think I said that a couple of times. I can't believe you're arguing about what each other do when we've got such a big issue that we all need to work on together. So that's certainly been my biggest disappointment for the year. My favourite memories, I have to say, I've got squillions of them. The ministers coming. I remember one of my favourite things in Parliament when I asked the Premier a question and he skirted all around it, and when it came to ask for extra time to him, I made the little comment like, I'm very keen to hear more about silos. I love the fact that this office runs so well. I love the fact that our kids can all come in. We've actually hatched eggs in here and had chickens and all sorts of things happening in here. We've gone on walks the other day, and it was really amazing to be able to strip my clothes off at the side of the river and hop into one of our natural, beautiful areas. So there's so much. I'm looking forward to next year just to continue doing what we're doing. I want to solidify some of the work we've done around a new local area command. I certainly want to solidify the work around the Picton bypass and see where that settles in. And just looking forward. I'm looking forward to watching the council elections next year and not being involved in them. If anybody's out there and wants to run, I would help anybody. I'm not making recommendations. I might say who I don't want there, but I'm not saying who I do. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody in our great community. It's just a very, very big privilege to be involved in this community. I can't tell you how happy I am doing the work we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
I got goosebumps.